Hey there, toy collector friends and Transformers fans alike. Welcome back to the channel. I'm the Triple TC, that's the time travelling toy collector, and this is the Transformers Studio Series 86 number 23, Ratchet. Direct from Hasbro and Takara Tomy, and how Ratchet appeared in the 1986 animated motion picture. And I've got to be honest, Ratchet is one of my favourite Transformer characters. Originally pre the TV series, because we didn't really see the TV series very much or very easily over here in the UK when it was playing in the 80s. So it was in the comics, and where I pretty much picked up the comics was sort of just after Shockwave had returned and taken out the Autobots, and Ratchet had survived Shockwave's initial onslaught through circumstances, and then had to go and find the Dinobots, work alongside Megatron, and essentially save the day. So Ratchet has a very, very special place in my heart. Obviously, these figures aren't being released in chronological order, and a little bit more on that in a second. So this is number 23, and we've already had battle damaged Ratchet, which you'll have probably seen if you watch my Studio Series 86 playlist. But yeah, so we've had Ratchet battle damaged, and Ratchet battle damage came with without the translucent plastic around the chest and paneling in the legs and feet. He had the filled in opaque windshields and windows. But nevertheless, this remains one of my absolute favourite figures, and at least this time when we're looking at that lovely head of Ratchet's, we're not going, oh my goodness me, look at the pain in his eyes and the pain in his face. Now, like his counterpart, and indeed his mould mate, Ironhide, he has all the regular articulation. And you know, there's nothing here that will surprise you around the arms, the waist, the legs. He has a very nice array of posability. Again, and it's a bit sort of common with this figure, these panels at the side don't quite tab, so they're a bit at the mercy of posing and gravity and other laws of physics, unfortunately. But otherwise, he's a very posable, very dynamic figure, so I'm really, really glad that I have him technically twice now. Once with his battle-damaged form, and in this form. I mentioned about the numbering, so just before I get into that, quick reminder that if you can, please do like the video, and also it would be fantastic if you could drop a subscription to the channel. As you know, it's completely free. But it would mean a lot to me, and it would really, really help me reach my next subscriber milestone. Again, doesn't mean much, I know, to anybody else, but it would really mean a lot to me. And as I say, it's completely free. I don't have a Patreon or anything like that. So it would be wonderful if, just to help the channel grow, you could drop a subscription to it. And of course, there's no obligation to watch every single video. You can just pick and choose the ones that may catch your eye and tickle your fancy. That's what I'm going to say on that. If you'd rather just stick around for this, then that's absolutely fantastic. So getting back to the main attraction, Ratchet on the backdrops numbered up with the Studio Series 86 information. Now, two key things. Key thing number one, I think I've mentioned this in some other videos, but you'll probably be aware, there is talk, and it looks like that talk's about to become reality, of the Studio Series 86 backdrops, and indeed Studio Series backdrops in their entirety, being discontinued. And I think that's a shame. I know a lot of people have mixed views on them. Some people, it's quite divisive. Some people don't like them. Some people don't use them. They don't have enough space to display them. And I get that. I don't have enough space to display them. But I do think, because of their situation, and these are from, and in some cases, a lot of the figures are taken from a very specific point in their appearance in the film. They do kind of give a sense of occasion and a sense of placement for these figures. So if you are lucky enough to have the space to display them with their display base, I think that's fantastic. If you haven't, and you're somebody who likes to keep the boxes or keep the figures looking good in the boxes, if you take out the inserts, then you can just have this backdrop behind them. Because if you, let's take a quick look at the packaging for this style of box, we have the window here. So we've got all the Transformers, the movie stuff there, the nice artwork of Ratchet on the front, Studio Series 86 23 Ratchet, all the artwork, and the product shots on the back, of course, and the backdrop included. I think it's really, really an effective gimmick of this range. Now, again, I fully understand not everyone will have the same view on that, but why? And I suppose there's a cost implication, because if people are being vocal about not wanting it, then Hasbro will hear that and say, well, actually, we could save ourselves a bit of money on this. And also, the other thing I'm going to mention is the numbering, this is number 23. The release, as I mentioned, of the figures hasn't necessarily been numeric across the piece. There are still some gaps early on early-ish on in the range. There's some gaps that are still incomplete, and there are some numbering inaccuracies. So where we've had the 2 packs of the battle damaged Autobots, there are also at least one of them that I can think of off the top of my head has got a duplicate number with another range release. And it also looks like, from the promotional images of the forthcoming Studio Series 86 Galvatron, that it is numbered 31. And eagle-eyed collectors will notice that Studio Series 8631 is a spot already occupied by the Commander class Optimus Prime. So it looks like these numbers are beginning to lose some sort of coherency, which is really disappointing. And if you're a collector, very frustrating. Now, I don't know if you've seen the new packaging that's been identified with some of the recent reveals through the Hasbro Pulse event on 10/27 or MCM Comic Con. But some of the new packaging does look like there's no longer the backdrops in the Studio Series figures, and the sub numbering, and indeed the 86 element, is missing from where we've seen the Constructicons, and which I think is the only 2 Studio Series 86 so far that we've seen from memory with the new packaging. Don't get me wrong, new packaging, streamlined, very nice, but the numbering seems to disappear completely. It could be just it could be a box that has been mocked up for the purposes of the prototype reveal. But if it isn't, then it does look like we're losing the numbering scheme. So what happens there? I'm just speaking from someone who's got gaps in their collection and gaps in the ordering system. And it does look like we are genuinely going to lose the backdrops, which I think is absolutely disappointing. Anyway, I've rambled quite a bit about some sub issues, but it would be fascinating for me to know in the comments below whether you think these do add a degree of added value, or they are just a waste of cardboard and should be thrown in the bin, and Hasbro should stop wasting time and effort. What I would say is, if they are going to do that, then the money they save from this, which I don't imagine is a huge amount, so they're not exactly losing money on this, but if they are saving money on this, does it get put back into the quality of the figure? I need to see more detail on those Constructicons before I can answer that, because at the moment, my view is, I don't think so. But I'll wait till I have those in hand before I make any sort of comments. Anyway, back to the figure in question. Obviously, we've seen the mold before, so I'm not going to bore you hugely with it. But I do love the scheme. I do love the crispness of the white. I do love that there's not really too much in the way of gaps or waffling. I mean, I get that there is some that's essential for the transformation. There are some spaces in the in the sort of forearm element there, but you know, it kind of has to be. But the legs are pretty solid. They're the same legs. Everything is essentially the same as we've seen with Ironhide, and we've seen with Battle Damaged. Let's go with Battle Damaged rather than, you know, the other option. But I really, really love this figure, and I really love the head sculpt. Oops, excuse me. I really love how this figure looks. And I think Studio Series, certainly to date, have done excellent work with getting some of these characters where they need to be. So, as you'll know, if you're familiar with the channel, I don't do the transformations on camera, but what I will do is come back to you in a second, having transformed him up, to tell you exactly what I thought of the transformation, how easy, difficult it was, and any particular pinch points that I may have encountered. In the meantime, please don't touch that dial, don't go anywhere, and you can use these couple of seconds to like and subscribe, as mentioned at the top of the video. Don't touch that dial. Okay, and so we are back with Ratchet all transformed up into his ambulance alt mode, and again, I really like this mode. I mean, it does, you know, it's got some nice freewheeling motion. You can store his blasters under here, so it looks a little bit like exhaust pipes. Make sure if you do store them that you have the handles pointing in. They just tab on, handles pointing inwards, otherwise you will interfere with the freewheeling motion. Now, again, it may be because I've done it quickly, but I cannot get this bit to tab in. And it's where you can see here, there's these two areas here where these plastic tabs, and this is hereby hangs the problem, these plastic tabs are supposed to clip in. Let's re-tab that back in, and they're not doing it. They don't want to do it. And the thing is, if I apply too much pressure, everything else starts to come apart, which is unhelpful. But also, I'm very mindful that that plastic, that transparent plastic that forms all of these bits here, it's not going to take the pressure of that. It's actually ultimately going to snap on me, and that's not great. It's not a great look. But it doesn't all come together. It doesn't all hold together the way I would want it to. So that's a disappointment for me. There's the rest of the body of the robot underneath there, and I think that's a psychological problem. It might just be mine. You can see how it just doesn't hold together very well. But I think it's in part because I'm just so conscious that blue plastic is going to crack. Again, we don't have any of the additional red detailing or ambulance detailing, and because you go for this translucent aspect, and don't get me wrong, I'm not an enemy of the translucency, but it's not consistent, because then you have the back window which isn't filled in, and then looks odd. So why have it as a window? Just have it as, you know, just have the Autobot red cross. I know we can't have the actual red cross symbol due to copyright limitations, but we could have had something on the back there, couldn't we? So I just think that's a shame, and I think this again. I think that this, if it was perhaps a little more opaque, it would be better from a presentation point of view, because you can sort of see all the things that are going on, which, to be fair, takes me back to old school G1 Ratchet, where you could see all the stuff sort of just plonked inside him. But it does make, I mean, it's essentially the same that we saw with damaged Ratchet, and of course with Ironhide. But it just is a frustration. I will say this: the rest of this section scooches together really, really nicely. So there's no issues. We only have the visible Autobot symbol on the front there, alongside the windscreen wipers and the nice coloured grille. So again, there are some really lovely aesthetic aspects to this, but by the same token, they all fall apart if you can't finish the transformation. Do you know what I mean? So for me, and again, in fairness for Ratchet, I probably wouldn't display him in ambulance mode anyway. But from a playability point of view, I would want my Transformers to transform with a degree of ease. Now, that doesn't mean I'm anti the complexity of certain Transformers, not by a long chalk. I really find it fascinating that we have such variety in that level of complication. But it needs to not be so clever as to get in its own way. And I think that sometimes does happen with modern Transformers transformation sequences. Because they're so clever with intricate paneling that disappears and reveals this and does that, which, again, don't get me wrong, love it. But when you end up in a situation where it's all so many panels and they all are contingent on clasping together, and then you've got some brittle plastic that has to go into a slot that it simply won't go into, you have a problem with your transformation and therefore ultimately the end product. But assuming that did tab in, and I will play with it and try and get it to tab in over time, I still like the figure. I still like the mold. I think it's really, really good. I definitely think it's one of my favourite versions of Ratchet outside of the, well, I was going to say outside of the G1 version, but because I had the G1 version of Ratchet and didn't really know what on earth I was dealing with, because it was a little bit different to how he was represented in the comics and indeed in the cartoons. But yeah, it is a good solid figure. I continue to enjoy what Studio Series 86 are putting out. I do worry slightly we're going to start seeing a lot more retooling and repainting, because the War for Cybertron range and some of the Legacy range put out some really good G1-esque, G1 aesthetic figures that may well be getting retouched for re-release it within the Studio Series 86 line. And I understand it from a business point of view, but maybe I'd have held off releasing them until Studio Series 86, because, and some of you will be aware of this from online chatter, and I'm going to use the example of Galvatron. That Galvatron mould is very, very good, but it's been used now several times, and now it's being reused again as the Studio Series 86 Galvatron. And it is kind of cartoon accurate, but it isn't fully cartoon accurate. Now, even with the recolouring, I guess we'll have to see. But I think there was a lot of people have commented already, so I'll just add my voice to that. That there are some aspects of that mould that could have benefited from a couple of minor adjustments, I think, that would have at least made it worth the double, triple, or quintuple potentially dip in terms of picking up that figure within the Studio Series 86 range. I have the original War for Cybertron release, which I thought was really lovely. I then got the I resisted getting the toy accurate colouring version, the Generation Selects version, which was, you know, impressive on my behalf. But I did pick up the Behold Galvatron range with the figure set, which was the one where he was translucent, because I thought that was really, really nice. And I also picked up the red RED Megatron translucent figure, so that just from a toy photography point of view, it looked really nice to have the War for Cybertron Megatron go into the red version, go into the Behold Galvatron version, go into the Galvatron from War for Cybertron. So that was a nice photographic journey. And it will be nice to have that and be able to recreate it for Studio Series 86 with the 86 mould. I get it completely when it's things like Ratchet and Ironhide. They were mould brothers from the beginning, so I can live with it. I just don't know. I just feel like, I hope they're not getting into a point where they're starting to feel that they can not cheat their audience, but maybe release relax some of their originality. And I hope it's not the case. We shall see. I mean, again, I will have a close look at the Constructicons when the chance arises. And I'm sure there'll be some other fantastic figures coming our way from Studio Series 86. And again, it is a good way to pick up molds that you may not have got previously that are now ridiculously expensive on the aftermarket. I'm really looking forward to getting hold of some of the Seekers. The original Seekers, not the new Seekers. And I don't mean the musicians, I mean the actual new Seekers, that I want sort of your Skywarp, etc. I also didn't pick up, for this very reason, I didn't pick up the Legacy Insecticons. I didn't pick them up because I'm sure they're what we're going to see repainted for Studio Series 86. At least that's the gamble that I've made, and I really hope I'm right. Because I don't need them twice, and I do have the G1 Insecticons tucked away somewhere. So for me, I am now beginning to be a bit stringent in if I see something in the Legacy line that's being released, or rather the Age of the Primes line as we move forward that's being released, that looks like it belongs in Studio Series 86 or a retool, repaint version, I'm holding fire just in case. But that's me. You obviously do what you like. And why not let me know in the comments down below what you will do with the future releases for Studio Series 86. Did you pick up Ratchet? Do you like Ratchet? Do you have a tip on how I can do that without starting to shave parts of the plastic down? I see people in videos all the time saying, oh, I've had to shave this tab, or I've had to file this tab. And I actually go cold thinking, if I did that, I'd end up scratching. I'd scratch it, I'd break the tabs off. It would be a complete disaster. And I just don't have that level of courage that I'm going to damage, or a belief in my own ability that I won't damage my very, very, very expensive toys. So yeah, thank you very much for spending the last 20 or so minutes with me. I've been the Triple TC. That is the Time Travelling Toy Collector. This has been Studio Series 86, number 23, Ratchet, as he appeared in the 1986 animated movie. And all that remains for me to say is that I very much look forward to seeing you in a future, or indeed a past video, and to remember that a thing of beauty really is a toy forever. Take care. Bye-bye for now.